Today we're going to talk about Advantage insurance for retired U.S. citizen or retired dual citizens, also for retired Americans or those planning to retire in the Philippines but maintain their U.S. citizenship, of course. Also for Filipinos who want to retain their U.S. citizenship, does not want to be dual, but is retiring in the Philippines using an SRRV visa. We are going to talk about the type of insurance that you might like, but this is not for everybody. So I'm going to talk about that. Hang loose, stay with me. This topic is for people who are in the Philippines or who plans to go to the Philippines, wants to retire there, meaning for an extended period of time, but still plans to come back to the US once in a while or periodically, just like me. I'll plan to spend 50% of the time in the Philippines, 50% of the time here. Basically, I'm a US resident but wants to spend more time in the Philippines and learn the country that I miss so much for the past 50 years. We're going to talk about the type of insurance, one type of insurance that you can have. I shouldn't say a lot, but some people were getting frustrated, sort of almost commenting and telling me that I'm lying, that you don't tell the truth, that's deceptive, prove it to me, stuff like that, because they don't believe it. And the reason they don't believe it is not because they think otherwise, it's because it's so hard to get the information. And this has something to do with Advantage plan under Medicare. Okay? Advantage plan under Medicare. Whenever you talk to insurance agents here in the United States, and they say, oh, Medicare does not cover anybody who is outside the United States. Oh, it's only good for 60 days or 90 days. After that, you're out of luck. You don't have any insurance. That is a most common perception in the United States. It took me, I think, 2 years to discover this because I said, there has to be something. I inquired about policies that are international coverage. That means anywhere you are. And they're very expensive. And paying the Medicare plan, supplemental, especially the supplemental plan in the United States, is so expensive. You're paying so much for what? For what benefit? If you get sick in the Philippines, you're not covered, except for the first 60 or 90 days. Here's the thing. Advantage plan, first of all, let's talk about the United States. Advantage plan can be good for you or may not be good for you. Who is it good for? For people who are very sickly, always in the hospital, always visiting a doctor, blood test here, lab test there, and so forth and so on. Because in the supplemental, when you have a supplemental, you don't have to have cash. You don't have to have significant amount of money. All you need to do, again, this is just in the United States, all right? All you have to do is to present this card, this medical card, and you're covered. Insurance company will pick up almost everything. There are a few deductibles and co-pays, but not too much. And you can go to any doctor. It's very convenient. It's great. But for that benefit, how much do you pay? Just how much do you pay? $200 to $300 per month per person. So if it's you and your wife, you're looking at about $500, maybe $600 a month per person. Okay? And that is in addition to you having Plan B of Medicare, which costs about $140, $150, you cannot get a supplemental without Plan B. Don't worry about Plan A. Everybody's required to carry Plan A. Plan A is for hospitalization. Plan B is for doctor's fees. Plan A is mandatory, but you're not paying for it. It's paid for by the government. I'm sorry, that's Plan A, okay? Plan A. Plan B, for the doctors, you're supposed to pay for it, but it's optional. So if you're going back to the Philippines, just make sure you don't have plan B. You have no plans to return. Make sure you don't have plan B, and you save yourself $140, $150. Okay? But if you might return, don't terminate it, because if you do not terminate it, if you do terminate it, you may not be able to get back in. It's very difficult to get back in. Now, and the reason for that is you'll be subjected to underwriting, which means there'll be a medical checkup, and if you have certain blood conditions, most likely you'll be spending a lot of money on you, or the insurance company will be spending a lot of money on you. No, they're not going to accept your policy. But supplemental is good if you're permanently here in the US. You can go to any doctor you want. You almost have to put out nothing out of your pocket, because all you have to do is to present this card. Advantage plan is a different plan. It's like an HMO. How does HMO work? You have to belong to a certain network of doctors. If you go outside of that network, you're out of luck. They're not going to cover you. But if you're within the network, you're covered. There is more copay and deductible compared to supplemental, but not much. Okay? And considering now, like what I said, both supplemental and advantage, you have to pay plan B, which is $140 to $150. But on the supplemental, you wind up paying $250 to $300 per person. Okay, for a couple, it will cost you $500 to $600. Okay, and that is in addition to the plan B premium you're already paying. Now, when we talk advantage, you have to belong to a certain network. But here's the benefit. The fee is anywhere from $0 to maybe $50 a month, compared to $250 to $300 on the supplemental. That's a lot of savings every month. You have to put out the money, whether you're sick or not, whether you use it or not, you have to put out the money. So, Advantage works in the following way. You have to belong to a certain network. So if you're old, you're always staying there, and only once in a while you go out and then come back again, you're better off staying with Advantage. Because let's say if you're living in Pennsylvania, you go to Washington, you go to Connecticut, you go to New York, if you get sick in any of those places, you're not covered, okay? Or they may cover you only in emergency cases. Now, going back to the people I was talking about, dual citizens and foreigners who are retired in the Philippines. You have to be a citizen of the country or a permanent resident of the country in the United States. Okay, you have to be either a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the U.S. And remember, permanent residence, I think somebody told me it's now 6 months. You're allowed to be out of the United States for 6 months. Okay, if you're going to be out longer than 6 months, you need a special permit from the immigration office of the U.S. Okay. So this is for those people, either you are a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the country. And this is not stated in the policy, but this is really intended for people who are going to be away and come back and be part of that group. Meaning they may not mention that as long as you are a citizen, you can be out of the country as much as you want. This is really intended for people who are planning to come back. If you're not planning to come back, don't get it, because at some point your policy may be invalidated. All right. Now, what is the advantage of the Advantage plan for these people? You have worldwide coverage. When you are in the Philippines, you'll be covered worldwide, not only in the Philippines but in other countries as well. What is the drawback? What's the disadvantage? Because you're outside of the group here in the United States, you're considered outside of the group. Okay? When you're worldwide, you will be covered only for emergency cases. So if you are in the Philippines, let's say you want to see a doctor, yearly physical, you feel something wrong is here, there's something wrong here, you go for x-ray or whatnot, you pay for those. That's not covered. Okay. Now, in case of an emergency, that means one insurance company, Humana in particular, told me you practically just have to go to emergency room. If you go to the emergency room, Number one requirement, that means it's an emergency. And then they check you in, they confine you and such. You will be covered. Okay? You will be covered, but you will have to pay it first and then file a claim in the United States. So there's a delay. So what happens if you don't have money? Too bad. You cannot go in. They don't accept ID. They cannot say, oh, gee, I belong to this, so take me in, even though I don't pay you anything. No. You have to pay first in advance. That is the drawback. But for some people who will have that money, or emergency money, I should call it, it is good. Because, for example, in my case, my policy is zero premium. I still pay by $143, $145 Plan B, okay, for Medicare, because you need to be covered for that before you can have the advantage. But once you have the advantage, Medicare is out. You don't file any claim with Medicare. All your claim processing will be done by the Advantage company, in my case, Humana. The other drawback is this. It is not available everywhere. When I was in Washington State, I inquired, first time I found out about this, I was walking at the mall and there was a kiosk and there was someone I talked to and they said, yeah, we cover worldwide Advantage. And he showed me the plan. I said, ooh, it's true. It has worldwide coverage. So I said, come to my house, let's talk about it. So he came over and we had in-depth discussion, and that's when I was convinced that this is the plan that I want. So when I came back to Pennsylvania, I called again. United Healthcare, the company I was talking to in Washington, did not have that kind of plan here in Pennsylvania. They have supplemental plan, but they do not have Advantage. And sometimes they have it in one county or one area, but you go to another place, the same state, and they don't offer that. So it's not available everywhere. But in many places, it is available. Now, here is the reason why people are having difficulty. Every time, I must have talked to 10 or 20, I can't remember how many I talked to, a lot of, including consultants. And every time I open up the discussion about me being in the Philippines, oh no, you will not be covered, except maybe for the first 60 to 90 days. Because that is a general rule, and that is all they know. Okay? That is the problem we have. They are supposed to be insurance agent, knowledgeable on insurance and things like that, but they don't know everything. They know most of what they sell. I don't know if they're being deceived by their employers, because the employers obviously want to sell their policy, and if they do not have such a policy, they will not encourage it. Or maybe they make more commission by selling the supplemental. Or maybe they're aware of it, they know about it, but they don't talk about it. So you have to be careful. And the thing is, when you talk to so many people like I did, and they always say this, do not believe it. Ask for a copy of the policy. Ask them to send you something that says on the internet there's worldwide coverage. Ask them to send you a policy or a booklet that shows there is worldwide coverage. That's the only way you can find out if what is being said is the reality. Okay? Now, for the benefit of those people who are naysayers, and they're saying, no, this thing don't exist. I just got an email from one viewer, and he shared with me his experience with Humana. So let's read about it, okay? This was sent to me February 2nd. I recently had a one-night stay in a private hospital in San Fernando, Pampanga. Total bill was 70,000 PHP, pesos, and I faxed it to Humana. I have filed 3 other claims over the last 5 years, totaling more than 300,000 pesos. That 300,000, that's about $6,000, okay? And they accepted the itemized bill from the hospital, no problem. This time, they denied my claim, asking for medical records. Anyway, just wanted to let you know, they have apparently tightened up their requirements. Kind regards, Fred. Okay. Then I received another email. This is February 23rd. According to Humana's website, it appears that they will pay approximately 51,000 pesos of my 59,000 total hospital bill. I was hospitalized for only one day, night, and it looks like they disallowed the private room charge. I may appeal that decision because the hospital only had the presidential suite available when I was admitted. My claim was initially denied after I faxed them a 7-page itemized billing statement, and they requested my hospital medical records, which took 3 weeks to get from the hospital. In the meantime, I faxed them a 1-page medical certificate which seemed to satisfy them. In previous claims, Humana has been satisfied with an itemized statement from the hospital. This is another thing, by the way. I received some questions. How do you submit the claim? And I really don't know because I have never filed a claim. In fact, I wish I will never have to file a claim. Okay? I wish I will not get sick. He submitted it by fax, which is good. So you do not have to go back and wait until you're in the United States to file a claim. And many of them, even medical doctors today, they don't email. They still have not used to using email, so you have to fax it. So I'm making sure there's a fax modem on my computer so that when I need to fax something, because that is what is legally acceptable for the medical professionals, I guess insurance also, in the Philippines, I will be ready for it in case I needed it. Okay? So anyway, let's continue on. Unfortunately, Calcutta Hospital in San Fernando, Pampanga has gone downhill in the last couple of years, and I will not go there again. For future needs, I will go to Green City New Hospital in San Fernando or Asian Medical Center in Alabang, Manila. Over the years, I have developed good relationship with 3 very good doctors, and three checked in with me while I was hospitalized. My main doctor is an internist, plus I have a pulmonary and cardiologist. Even though I haven't had any heart issues, I've had pneumonia a couple of times. Even though my primary doctor was on vacation for a holiday, she came to the hospital to attend to me. I hope you find this information helpful. I'm glad to see that you have signed up for an Advantage plan. As you know, most people will tell you that Medicare will not cover medical care outside the U.S. See that? Congratulations on your YouTube channel. You have become very successful. Warm regards, Fred. So as I was saying, this is not a very popular plan. And another reason that I forgot to mention is, the reason it's not a popular plan is, of all the agents, you look at the agents, what percentage of the time do you think do they sell to Filipinos or to foreigners? Most of the time they're selling to people who are in the neighborhood, people who are U.S. citizens and residents, people who has no need for policy outside the country. So that one instance or 2 instances that they encounter this, they don't know. So in that case, they're just plain honest in that they did not know. Some, on the other hand, are dishonest because they know about it, but they don't want to tell you. Or they trained, but the trainee does not even know about it. Or of course, they will train you on what covers 90 to 99% of the policies you're going to sell. Okay? So I was really very impressed with that guy in Washington. He, on top of his head, knew right away what I wanted, what I needed, and he said, yeah, we do have a policy for that. Just keep in mind, the Advantage is not going to cover you for routine examination, routine office visits, checkups, and minor stuff that you don't need hospitalization for. But if you are in an accident or you had a heart attack and you need to be confined, it's an emergency, you're covered. And that's all the protection I want. Because quite honestly, the medical charges in the Philippines are way, way lower compared to the United States. But it's still a lot, okay? Here you pay as much as $400 to $1,000 per day on hospitalization. In the Philippines, you can get one for as low as $20, $40 per day. So it's a lot less expensive. So the out-of-pocket money that you will need, I can't remember how much is the claim, $59,000 is one claim. So how much is that? Let's call it $60,000. That's about $120. $120. Guess what? If you're paying a premium here for the supplemental, your supplemental for 1 month is $250. Okay? Nothing is free. Now, a lot of people buy the supplemental because of, oh, gee, I paid $20. They feel that, okay? But the automatic payment they're making, especially those who are still working, and therefore it's a salary deduction, they don't feel it. Whereas if they pull their wallet and have to pay money, they feel it. They say, oh, gee, am I glad I have insurance? Yeah, you don't know that you're paying $300 a month on a monthly basis that you don't see or you don't feel. So that's all I'm saying. So for the people who are the naysayers, who even acted nastily to me, almost saying that I am lying, there is one evidence, one proof. I can't tell you, I can't give you the proof, I can give you actual experience because I haven't experienced it yet. There's some questions like, how do you file a claim, that I don't know yet. Okay, all I know is that I'm covered and I will deal with it when the time comes that I have to deal with it. I hope I don't have to. I hope I don't use it at all. Nice thing about it is, but I'm not paying for it. Not a single penny. Now, when I move to Washington State, I think I'll pay there $20 to $30 per month, which is still not bad compared to the supplemental, and I have a coverage. Again, only for emergency, number one, and you have to pay in advance first before filing a claim. So if you don't have the money, won't do you any good. So look for a plan that is in the Philippines or international plan that obviously is going to cost you a lot more money than it's costing me. Am I worried about this routine medical? No, I'm not, because it's so inexpensive compared to here. It's so inexpensive in the Philippines. So I'm not worried about it. So hopefully this helps you a lot, and do share it with your friends and relatives who might be planning to go to the Philippines or retire in the Philippines. Again, if you're not planning to come back to the US, don't worry about this. This is for people who are back and forth, who have children or relatives, friends in the US that periodically they will come back. If you're going to the Philippines and stay there forever, this is not a plan for you. Okay? So thanks again, and I will appreciate it if you click like, whether you like it or not, and do subscribe to my channel if you don't mind. Thank you so much. God bless.